Meeting of the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee. Hope everybody got a chance to review the minutes of October 8th, and if so, I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Investment report. Mr. Bates.
Thank you, sir. LGIP rates step up a little more, still not very strong, but we did have one bid. We had a CD that matured. It's a little larger than what we normally have, but we've had that in the CD, and it renewed at 71. It had been at 50, so that was a 21 basis point improvement over where we had it. So, things are a little better, and actually have talked to some of the banks who seem to now have a little interest, which for a long time we just didn't have. You saw how thin the bids were, so a little brighter on the investment side.
Move to approve the investment report.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Commissioner Pease. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Commissioner Bates.
Thank you.
I will say before we move on, we're going to be short one member tonight. Remember Commissioner Allen, her son had knee surgery today. He's a senior at Birmingham Southern, I believe. Got hurt playing football. The surgery was this afternoon. Went as well as could possibly be expected. The family was very worried. Young man's going to have a full recovery from what message she sent me. And
Okay, that's
and
good.
prayers work. A lot of prayers are going on right there. And while this wasn't a life-threatening injury, it would have been a tragedy for a 21 or 2-year-old to have knee problems the rest of his life. So just want to be thankful for that. Fund condition report, Ms. Nolan.
Okay, I'll start with the development tax. We had a banner month in October where we received $808,500 from development tax. That brings our total through for 4 months reporting to $2,217,750. Our budget for the year was estimated at 2.4. I believe we will hit it. I'll go to the what do you got next on? Revenue or cash?
Cash.
All right, cash balances for October totaled $176,949,000, with $143,830,000 being operating funds, $33,119 being borrowed funds. Last line, energy efficient project. You see as a negative, but the school board is in the process of requesting reimbursement for that. No questions there, or any questions there?
I see John Coleman down there. They're finally ready to move forward with that, I believe. Got a groundbreaking
A week from today.
Oh, wait,
week from today. Yeah,
Cutting trees
Finally.
this morning.
cutting trees. So
that's good.
finally got that worked out, moving forward.
Okay. On the revenue, starting with the first page, the general fund, we're at 22.2% collected of our budget. You can see that is improvement compared to the last 5 years. I'd rather see it that way than the other way. The ambulance fund, 118, is slightly behind, but they reported that this is, I think, I can't remember if it was October 1, where they have to use the new DC codes, the reporting codes, and that they were going to be a little behind in their revenues. I've already talked about, I've given you just a few notes. A lot of those are the same as what I had last month, so I won't go back over those. 3 months reporting of sales tax for the rural area is 49% higher than it was last year at this time. Countywide, we're 8% higher. That affects the funds in the general fund, solid waste, and highway fund, and schools. I'll make it short because I'll I want more time later.
Any questions of Ms. Nolan?
Just the development tax, 103% collected.
Several apartments. coming in.
Good and bad. Helps our revenue, just doesn't. More people moving in.
Yeah. Means more to spend. Have to spend, put that.
Entertain a motion.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
Mr. Bond. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Motion passed. Risk Management Financial Report. Ms. Street, how are you tonight?
I'm well, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Okay. Fund 264. For the month of October, our per employee per month on our self-funded claims ended at $903, compared to prior year of $847, for a year-to-date of $922, compared to prior year of $895. Combining the on-site medical clinics, our total per employee per month increases to $941, compared to prior year of $892, with a year-to-date of $965, compared to prior year of $926. In Fund 266, our year-to-date is $241,368, compared to prior year of $243,510.
Any questions of Ms. Street?
Motion to approve the report.
Thank you, Commissioner P.
Second.
Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. That was one. Quick and simple.
You guys are on a roll tonight.
A lot easier than last month.
Yeah.
Ambulance Fund Budget Amendment. You doing that
I'll
one?
take care of it, yes, sir. The ambulance, they received $6,000 from the Middle Tennessee Emergency Physicians in July, $6,000 towards their scholarship program, and they're requesting to recognize that $6,000 and include it in additional funds for staff development.
Move for approval.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Commissioner Bond. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Rookie mistake.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. That was a test, and you caught that. The motion passes. General fund budget transfer for the sheriff's office. I see somebody lurking in the lobby out there now. I thought I saw somebody outside the door. We want to move on and
Save them for last.
here comes Cavalry.
Hey.
Welcome. How are you tonight?
Okay, we're ready for the $20,000 for extraditions.
We had last year conducted an audit within the sheriff's office to see how many people were entered into NCIC. And this year we ultimately ended up entering roughly twice the amount. So there's twice the amount that could possibly get a hit. Once a hit happens, we generally have 10 days to go get that person. And then PTS in the last couple of weeks have told us that they want us to give them 15-day notice. States generally give us 10. Sometimes Florida may give us 10 days, but they may give us an additional 10 days if we ask. So there's actually more people in the computer.
Means when you put information in,
Yes, ma'am.
y'all are putting more information in NCIS so that when somebody is in another state and they're picked up, they pull their records up, they see there's a warrant,
Yes, ma'am.
and then from there, they take them to jail wherever they are?
Yeah.
And say, come to
Then they
Rutherford
contact
County?
us for extradition.
If you don't make it within those 10 days, they just turn them loose,
Yeah,
start all over again.
yeah. There's more people in the computer now than we've had in a long time.
Are they charging us for those, say, if they're holding a prisoner for 10 or 15 days, are they charging us?
They
for that
generally
time?
don't unless there's medical bills that they accrue. Then they'll send us a bill.
And the request is to add $20,000 from building purchases to prisoner transport. Vote, Mr. Russell?
Sorry, I'm delayed.
And if I'm not mistaken, the building purchases, is that the classroom we talked about at one point in time?
Yes.
I didn't know Miss Allen couldn't be here tonight. She expressed concern about about taking it from that line item and seeing if we could find it somewhere else so we could still do that classroom if at all possible.
Yeah, whatever y'all recommend.
You know,
Or we might recommend you find it somewhere else in your budget, is what she's saying.
Well, I consulted with the finance director for the county, and that's where,
Well, I'm just passing along what.
Well,
and I
whatever
get-
you guys want to do, I'm open to any suggestions.
Well, that was my thought on the thing, because I remember back in public safety, when you presented the first budget, you were asking for 60. And I don't think anything came out of that one, but the mayor's budget, it came out at 40. And I remember hearing a pretty good sermon on why that was needed. And now, if you cut out half of the cost of it, then you're not going to be able to get it. So it's either telling me one or two things.
Well,
Either you didn't really need it, or
No, I will, they didn't make that recommendation, I did.
okay.
I mean, it
So-
was kind of, they needed 20,000, where are you gonna get it? That was the easiest thing, is maybe you just delay that building a year.
Now, let me ask. So, okay, do you have somewhere else you can get it from?
Well, not really. I mean, the budget's pretty thin, so, we both looked it over. I mean, we really didn't see any highlights anywhere where there's a lot of fat anywhere in this budget, so. You could take it from something right now and have to put it back later. That's about all you can do, I know.
Well, are you planning on buying the,
Yeah,
Portable?
they do want to do it, yeah. I mean,
you got
it's
a $20,000 one somewhere?
I don't know if you want to be in it.
That might be true. But, well, maybe the school board would sell you one at 20,000.
Well, they got something they'll give you, but they may not make
You
it.
may not want 'em, yeah.
Not making it where
Show
you
'em
want
one
to put
piece.
them, that's right.
Yeah.
The other alternative is to take it out of unassigned, and they typically do have monies at the end of the year that they do not spend. As an option.
Well, I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and approve it as it's come to us.
Second.
If we decide we need to do this, we'll dig a little deeper and see if we can pull it out.
I think that's the right move. We can always go to unassigned fund balance, even
Later.
if we have to go there for the building purchase.
Well, I just look at it as how much they fought for the money for that, and listen to it, that I'd rather see it come from somewhere else and come back later, and if that fund has to get something back, then give it to that fund.
Well, I know where the next 20 then is coming from. It's gonna finish. it.
That's right.
Then we'll just worry about
Well,
that
we-
next year is what'll happen.
They're gonna need two.
It is a great program. The GED program they've got is amazing. I don't know how many girls graduated at this point. It's over 600 or 700 at this point, I
It's a
think.
bunch.
More than probably anybody in the nation, so.
All right, well, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
No.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Got a special purpose fund budget amendment.
Yes, we had asset forfeiture funds of $9,737.81. The department heads brought to me, he would like to put $5,000 in the confidential line item and $4737.81 in law enforcement equipment. That is the recommendation.
It's the will of the committee.
Have a motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second?
Commissioner Bond?
Can these funds go anywhere else, for instance, into a school building we were talking about just now? Should it have gone into that? Well, there was
Half of it.
10,000 of it, or half of that, right there.
guess I would have thought this was somehow restricted.
Well, that's why I was asking.
I mean, I wouldn't
It's
have thought
more
it
looked like-
I wouldn't have thought it would.
It's got more of a broader
I'll get it.
use than the drug fund.
Well, I'm gonna make an amendment that we, instead of putting it into those funds, we move it back into the one we just pulled the 20,000 out of. Give you half of that back. I'll offer that as an amendment.
That could be that doesn't have to be an amendment, that can just be the motion.
Well,
No,
I thought you had.
We have got a motion, I'm sorry, yeah, we have got a motion. We've got an amendment to change the direction, this $9,737.81 back to the classroom, whatever that
I'll
account was.
second that.
And a second.
Building purchase, $732.
Any further discussion? Didn't take long to get half of it back, apparently. Call the roll on the amendment.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
No.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Amendment passes. Now we have a motion as amended. Any questions on that? Not, call the roll on the motion as amended.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
No.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Motion passes.
Okay.
I'll let you relay that back to your people.
I'll relay it back. Thank you very much.
And then you could play Ring Around the Rosie.
Oh,
Government accounting at its best right there. This iPad to do something. I got a PetSmart grant and related general fund budget amendment for Paul's. Betsy Gregory, how are you tonight? Good, you sir? Fine, thank you.
I've been notified of a grant that we'd applied for with PetSmart. The timeframe in which to apply was very short, so I went ahead and did that. So I'm asking for forgiveness versus permission at this point. The grant's for $18,000. It would require about $137 of county money to make the benefits for Social Security to work out. The money's going to be used to hire a part-time person that would man our adoption trailer. We have multiple requests for its use that we have to turn down simply because we don't have the staff.
Mr. Gregory, speaking for me personally, I support any time you can get $18,000 in exchange for $137.
That's what public safety said. I'll write a few of those checks tonight myself.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner P, Commissioner Schaefer, any further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. General fund budget amendment for fire and rescue. Chief Farley.
I'm requesting to move $13,940 out of the unassigned fund balance to put $11,650 in overtime, $725 in Social Security, $1,395 in state retirement, and $170 in employer Medicare. This is to compensate our people where we sent them to South Carolina for the flooding. We sent a swiftwater team up there, and of course, this should be reimbursed by FEMA.
But we probably won't get it for 3 or 4 years.
From my first glance at that unassigned fund balance, and then I read the caption, I felt much better after I hate going to unassigned fund balance this early, but this is, in my opinion, a justifiable reason. And the payback is coming.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. P and Commissioner Schaefer, any further questions, discussion?
I just comment, I'm glad our county was able to help the folks in South Carolina. That's a great cause.
And we sent people from Fire and Rescue and EMS and Murfreesboro Fire Center crew too, so we had a good support from Rutherford County and the city.
Rutherford County probably had 15 more people, I guess, between the different departments, I guess. I know that the city had 2 crews, I think, and that's good representation and shows a little bit about the character of the Middle Tennessee area. Call the roll.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner P?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Tell your people we're proud of them.
Thank you.
EMP grant contract with TEMA for emergency management. Mr. Katz, how are you tonight?
All right, good, sir. This is a fairly routine thing every year. This, the Emergency Management Performance Grant, what it is a program, federal program that's managed by the state down to the counties that choose to participate. Basically, we do a plan based on the requirements about this time every year, and then I do quarterly reports showing how we met those requirements. We usually exceed them. For instance, they measure how many exercises we do in a year, and the requirement is 3. We far exceed that every year. So I like it because it kind of keeps your program on track, and it also brings us money. And then $69,350 this year, and I'm just asking for y'all to allow the mayor to sign the contract.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Payne.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan. Further discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you. Title I grant for juvenile detention. Ms. Duke, how are you tonight?
I'm great, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good evening. This is so that we can accept the grant money for our Title I funds for our school program and our other programs that we do. It's for $73,967, no matching funds, and also want to go ahead and request that we can apply for this grant in the future.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
Second.
Commissioner Schaefer.
What exactly is it used for?
This is specifically for the salary and benefits for our Title I coordinator, and it's for part-time educational assistant, and then it's also for some educational supplies.
You seem like
Well, it just seems like,
You don't
are
seem
they-
settled
do
in.
you have them that long that you can actually start educating?
Well,
Go to classes and stuff?
They're required to attend
Continue.
school while they're in detention, so.
any
I'm
further
okay.
questions?
I'm okay with it. Yeah, it's just,
Call the roll.
Commissioner Baum?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Pine Ball Library Community Technology Center. Welcome.
Haven't seen you in a while.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Let y'all introduce everybody. I may get some names wrong.
I'm Christy Lee. I am the Linebaugh Public Library System Board Chair. This is Rita Shacklet. Many of you probably know her already. She is the Library Director. And this is Gary Green. He is the Vice Chair and also the Chair of our CTC Committee. We have a project we've been working on for a couple of years now, and we are here to share that with you. And with that being said, I'm going to let Gary go ahead.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Commissioners, for allowing us to come tonight to share with you a project we've been working on since late 2013. Earlier that year, our board realized that we were slowly falling behind in the technology front, so we began considering an advanced technology initiative. We started off by researching the needs of our community. Earlier that same year, the U.S. Department of Commerce released information gathered during its most recent current population survey concerning computer and internet use in the United States. This was a very detailed document that included geographies with populations greater than 65,000 people. As a whole, the survey revealed that about 1/4 of all households had no paid high-speed internet connection. Now, I don't want to bore you with statistic after statistic, but I feel to understand the needs in our community, it's necessary to drill down at these numbers somewhat. So in the same report, the Department of Commerce further reported that in the South in general, 29%, this number increased to 29%. The number increased even more when you consider race, nationality, and education. Households with only a high school education showed a void at approximately 39%, and those with less than a high school education, an astounding 57%. The report also indicated that our specific area showed no statistically significant difference from these averages. We also became aware of a project in San Antonio, Texas that was solving these same needs of bridging the gap between literacy and technology. Their project is called Bibliotech, and they built it as a freestanding bookless library. But their mission statement and vision is, and I quote, "to provide all residents the opportunity to access technology and its applications for the purpose of enhancing education and literacy, promoting reading as recreation, and equipping residents of the community with the necessary tools to thrive as citizens of the 21st century." And this sums up exactly the direction we want to head, knowing that as citizens of the 21st century, having access to high-speed internet connections has never been more important. We use the internet to complete schoolwork, locate and apply for jobs, watch movies and other personal recreation, access healthcare information, and to continue relationships through social media. This touches all ages, all ethnic backgrounds, all of our citizens. To develop a plan, and at the advice of Murfreesboro City Attorney Ms. McGannon, the Library Board asked the citizens in our community to serve on the Planning and Research Committee for this project. You have a pamphlet, I believe was just given to you, and you see on the back the members of that committee. I very briefly described to you the what, the why, and partially the who. Using the data from the Census Bureau, we began looking at target areas throughout our community that have the greatest void of internet availability and began focusing in an area between Main Street and Bradwell Pike, determining the most central location being along the Mercury Boulevard corridor. After discussions with the Murfreesboro City Manager and staff, we approached Dr. Linda Gilbert, the director of the Murfreesboro City Schools, about the possibility of using a portion of the Hobgood School campus as a future home of what we are calling Community Technology Center as our working project name. Amazingly for us, we were shown the Hobgood Elementary expansion plans and worked closely with Dr. Gilbert and Mr. Gary Anderson to weave our project into those plans. So now I've briefly described the what, the why, the who, and the where. The rest is the how and the when. From the beginning of our project, our board planned this to be a combined public-private endeavor. Our board reached out to our foundation and friends organizations, and they together have committed approximately $230,000 to the operating budget of this project. We then needed to go out and raise the remaining dollars, targeting local foundations and businesses, along with both the city and county governments for this support. The price tag for this project has been estimated by our architects at $1.2 million for the building itself, $500,000 to $600,000 in equipment and furnishings, and an annual operating budget of approximately $250,000. We presented this project to the Murfreesboro City School Board to ask them to go on record in support of this project. We received their unanimous support, and we took our plan to the Murfreesboro City Council, and they approved the use of the land at Hobgood for the new Community Technology Center. The condition would be the ability of our board and the library's auxiliary support groups to raise the required funds to build and equip a facility of approximately 5,300 square feet that will complement the current and future Hobgood campus. We have since been approved for funding of $400,000 by the City of Murfreesboro, and we are here this evening requesting light funding from Rutherford County. 2 weeks ago, the Commission's Health and Education Committee unanimously sent a recommendation to this committee to fund an investment in this project for $400,000. We are also, with these commitments, if we get those commitments, we're going to the state of Tennessee, asking for a $100,000 grant that's available to libraries. And then we will take those commitments and we'll be going to a local foundation, code word for Christy Houston, I guess, for a matching grant for $900,000 that would fully fund this project. With these commitments, and it will take every one of them, We'll then put the spade in the ground and complete this project for the citizens of our community. I could go on and on describing how this project will enhance the community through its use as a small business incubator, how we will develop and deliver technology training for our citizens, and especially how we will work with students, faculty, and families of our school systems by opening special hours just for their use. We feel that this is a worthy endeavor that will have a distinct positive impact on the lives of the citizens of Murfreesboro and Rutherford County. And when we open this facility and you come to observe a typical day, this is what I envision you would see. I believe in the mid-morning hours, it will accommodate citizens researching job opportunities and allow them to apply for those jobs right there on the spot. You will see seasoned citizens working on genealogy research or just generally continuing as lifelong learners by going online and using databases to learn a new language, or you'll see adults learning English as their second language. They will be connecting to social media sites to see recent pictures of their grandchildren who live many miles away or sending updates to relatives somewhere in the world. You'll see small groups meeting in discussion clubs. Later in the early afternoon, you will see small business owners who reserve one of the private meeting rooms coming in and connecting with their personal laptop to an available audio-video equipment and conducting business as one of the vendors, with one of their vendors or with Salesforce, instead of hunkering over a laptop at a local coffee bar somewhere. You'll see parents who will bring their younger children in to learn technology in a children's area with age-specific equipment, and they will come in and check out e-readers for their child that has preloaded age-appropriate books, or just check out a device to read a digital book or magazine they've been wanting to read. As the afternoon progresses, you will see middle school and high school students arriving to work on their homework assignments, independently or in work groups. Again, in one of the meeting rooms. Later that evening, there will be a group being taught Windows or Apple applications in a free class being taught by an MTSU student working as an intern, enhancing their own education. As I said earlier, I could go on and on, but I'll stop there. Just 2 months ago, the Pew Research Center, which if you're not familiar with them, they call themselves a nonpartisan fact tank, came out saying this is what Americans want from their libraries. It's 4 things. 1 is to support local education. 2 is to serve constituents special constituents such as veterans, active duty military personnel, and immigrants. 3, to help local businesses, job seekers, and those upgrading their work skills. And 4, embrace new technologies such as 3D printers and provide services to help patrons learn about high-tech gadgetry. They asked several questions, but 4 of them really jumped out at me, and the answers to these would, libraries should definitely do this, libraries should maybe do this, or libraries should definitely not do this. One of the questions was, should libraries offer programs to teach people, including kids and senior citizens, how to use digital tools such as computers and smartphones and apps? 78% said the library should definitely be doing that. 76% said the library should definitely be offering programs to teach patrons about protecting their privacy and security online. 52% said libraries should definitely be creating services or programs for local businesses and entrepreneurs, while 35% also said libraries maybe should be doing that. And 30% said that libraries should move print books and stacks out of public locations to free up more space for things such as tech centers, reading rooms, meeting rooms, and cultural events. I read that to say that 70% says they don't want you to do that. They like what we have now in libraries. We want these other services, but we want those in addition to what you're doing now. Some of the phrases that came out of this, or ideas that came out of this survey, said that large majorities of Americans see libraries as part of the educational ecosystem and as resources for promoting digital and information literacy. Many believe libraries should be pathways to economic opportunity, especially when it comes to providing resources for business development, job search, and enhancing workforce skills. And finally, lower income Americans, Hispanics, and African Americans are more likely to say that libraries impact their lives and communities than other Americans. This is exactly what we were trying to do with the Technology Center. And this is, like I said, this is a very fresh survey that just came out. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this project. It's been very brief. I know $400,000 is a lot of money. I was talking to a local circuit court judge just the other day, and I asked him what the cost is to incarcerate a prisoner. He told me that he's been told that the price is about $40,000 a year. Now, I know all that money doesn't come from the county, but it is all taxpayer dollars. But let's say the county's paying 25% of that, $10,000 a year. And I can't see into the future, but I can dream. If we just reach one person and provide education in the form of workforce development so that person can get a better job or a job period, it does not go out and commit maybe a felony, say maybe a 40-year felony, 40 years in prison, we've broken even with this $400,000 we're asking for. Or let's say we have 40 citizens that somehow get workforce development through this and maybe don't commit a crime if they would otherwise, and again, we break even. Now I'm just talking about financially breaking even. That doesn't mention the impact that we have on families' lives. They're enhanced by potential change through these events. Commissioners, I'm asking you to dream with us. Support your library's request for our community's future. Thank you.
I would say they've been to the Health and Ed Committee the last 2 months in a row. There's been a very good debate, discussion, both meetings, and a lot of discussion about what does it do for the citizens in Eagle, or what does it do for the citizens in Laverne. And before the last meeting was over, those commissioners all voted unanimously for this. And so there's been a lot of discussion and a lot of good discussion. And he's got all kind of numbers he can throw out at it if you want to talk about percentages and things like that. Commissioner P., you have a question?
Yeah, a couple. You say this is high-speed internet. Is it similar to what we're seeing in our schools, or is this a lot faster?
I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. We do know that the main trunk line for the pardon me?
Fiber optics.
Yeah, the fiber optics. They won't tell us exactly where it's at, but they can tell us that we're nearby where it's going to be. Somewhere it goes somewhere between MTSU and Manchester Highway. So I would say it's state of the art for Murfreesboro.
Well, the other question I have too is accessibility, and two, you've got elementary school basically on the grounds there. The elementary school is going to be able to access that throughout the school day.
And before hours as well. That was one of the beauties. We probably won't open until like 10 o'clock in the morning, and so classes can come in earlier, even from other schools, and have access to the computers and the software and the things that they can use for the STEM and the STEAM curriculum.
Right. And the last comment I want to make, the IDB board and the education division of that, are there any funds available, Mayor, or do y'all know?
Not through IDB.
Well, they do have.
When those bonds become mature, there's money to spend on education there.
They have put some money in
The community
sort of a
development.
trust fund that's available for community development. I don't know, and they have parameters on which they can make decisions to use some of that money. It's very, very limited, but they do have some dollars in the funds available.
Well, I'd like to reach out and tap those funds for something like this. I'd like, this is definitely right along the lines of what they're supposed to be spending those funds on, or at least in my opinion it is. But I'd like to see if there's any of that available that could help us either offset part of the $400,000, or I don't know what they've got available, if anything, right now that's not committed. I guess a good question for Mr. Baker, or whoever chairman is now.
Well, we can find out. I mean, they did go through a very extensive process of defining how many dollars, what percentage of that they can use, every year, and for what purposes. I haven't seen that document, but it is available.
Is that something you feel like you could have by commission meeting? And we could, if the committee were so inclined to move this forward and see if any of that was available and adjust that at that point in time?
Maybe you could consider funding this with the request to let us evaluate that, review that, and see if part of the 400,000 might be available. And if not, I mean, we'd still have a motion that would carry us forward with us doing this. I don't think they mentioned this, but our responsibility this could be spread over a 2 fiscal years. So that would help us a bit there. And a bit further, if we think this has got every probability of being successful, but if it's not successful and somehow they quit using this as part of the library extension, the city of Murfreesboro has agreed to take it back under their responsibility and refund the monies that we've contributed, since it is on their property right adjacent to that school.
I can't fathom why it wouldn't work myself.
We don't want to believe that will happen, but
I mean, if it's an extension of the library system where it's open to the public.
And right now, there is only one other like this in the United States. And we won't be the second one. Plus, it's the first time we would be really partnering with the school system as well, and I think that's going to speak very highly for the community and offer us opportunities down the road.
I think it's a good idea for the city to be doing that, especially with their school system. That's an enhancement to me to Opgood, which was a very good school.
Well, there was discussion that there is hope that in years to come, there'll be more of these centers. There may be an opportunity to partner with the county and in the future be adjacent to some county schools somewhere, but only time will tell. But hopefully, as was said in Health and Ed, 20 years from now, there might be 2 or 3 or 4 of these scattered throughout the county and start a trend. And I think partnering with schools is a great opportunity. And Smyrna and Laverne, we've got a lot of schools in that area, and there are some areas down there that are very similar to the areas out that way that have people that don't have the opportunities they have in other areas. So this may just be the first step.
Lisa, besides what I mentioned, are there any other avenues of funding this?
Through the county?
Through the county that you suggest?
Well, definitely the development tax, as we were already speaking to, has already come in almost to hit our mark. Our balance is 1.6 million. That's not committed.
Half of that or all of that?
1.6 is all of it that's set aside for capital.
And our development tax receipts went up $800,000 just since our last meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, by the end of the year, you may have it in the fund.
You picked a good day to come.
I've got a couple things. I heard the public-private. I'm assuming the private is Christy Houston. Is that what you meant by the?
Plus the first 3 years of the operating expense would be private.
Okay. And then after that, it would basically come 100,000 for the county, 100,000 for the city, and then the rest would be your library foundations. So,
but we remember now the Education Committee did not make any commitment on the operating cost requirements as we go forward. That's still another decision for later.
okay. And the buildings, well, I've read in here that it's Murfreesboro's building then. So is the operating expenses going to include the maintenance upkeep on the building, or is that strictly Murfreesboro on that part? And operating expenses are just the people that work there?
That's included in the operating expenses.
And I read this, I got one thing on the internet, and then I got a couple addendums yesterday or today. I read them, and something that stuck in the back of my mind, and is what makes me hard on it, is both in recent years, MTSU came and asked us to help them with the science building out there. We helped some, I think 100,000 for 1 year, and declined the next year. Motlow came and asked us for 200,000. Am I correct on that?
I think that
We gave them each 200,000.
Yeah, I think we gave them both at the same amount.
100,000 in several years.
Yeah.
Well, and
2 years in a
MTSU
row.
asked for $1 million, I think, to start with, and we gave them considerably less than they asked for.
Now, Motlow asked us on an occasion before I was even here, so they've
It's
had
two parts.
two parts to the money that they've
Several
been.
years ago, I know, when they were first coming in. Well, then when we get to talk about the private, there's a lot of business in this county that this would help. I know I've gone around and I've seen the mechatronics when they've been coming in and this type thing at the different schools and that with, mainly it was Nissan and Bridgestone were the two big partnerships on that, and some other came in. And I would think that, I also know that there's been smaller companies that have gone elsewhere with expansions because they don't, the people aren't here to fill their slots that they needed. And so to me, it would be very beneficial for private industry also, but I don't see that you really, from what I read and heard, is that you haven't really gone after that sector for funding.
We will be going after that segment for the operating side of this.
We have a list.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have on. Oh, yeah, the other thing, you know, that development tax, with it coming in like it is, that means on the other end, the man back in the corner back there to make sure nothing happens tonight for the school board standpoint is, you know, we're gonna have a middle school that's coming up on this next budget year. I'm positive on that. And here, where is it? I've got here the last agenda item, and I've got my papers here that are talking about long-term debt tonight. We're gonna get to hear about too. And hopefully the solutions there, the things there are gonna be, oh, well, this is how we can cut that debt down by paying some up front and all that, but that's all the questions I have. But those are also all the things that are going through my mind on this.
I want to disclose that I've worked with this and on this committee for this project, and I also serve on the Linebaugh Foundation Board. But I'm going to enthusiastically support this project because I think it's very worthwhile. Gary's mentioned a lot of points that make it sound like it would offer benefits that way exceed its costs. But I'm going to mention one of the points that really resonates with me. I work with students at MTSU periodically trying to help them find jobs. And so much of that process works through the computer and the internet. Not only searching for jobs, but applying for jobs. The applications are almost all online these days. So I can't imagine someone trying to find a job, someone who's unemployed and looking for a job, being successful without a computer, without internet connection, and without the ability to apply online. So Gary mentioned how the education and training provided by a center like this could keep people out of prisons, but it will help people get jobs. And the benefit there seems to me like, without having formally conducted the study, would way outweigh the cost of this center. And the county's portion of this fixed cost is 15%. So I think it's a very worthwhile project. I think the benefits are going to way exceed the cost, and so I'm going to support it.
And I will say that we have been working closely with the Chamber of Commerce, with Workforce Development, with the Rutherford Reconnect, and the Career Center, Nissan, several other groups. We've come together to work on this Rutherford Reconnect to help people get jobs. And so we're a vital part, because what they're saying at the Career Center is there are people that will never come to their facility just because it's too intimidating, but they will come to the library and take a class and do things. So, you know, you can never have enough computers either.
Dr. Bullen used to talk about this is a progressive county, and we need to do progressive things and do the right things for our citizens. And in my opinion, he would be a champion of this project, and I feel like it is something personally that we need to push forward. You know. And with that, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion I'll make the motion that we accept this proposal for $200,000 over 2 years, and that the funding comes from the development tax.
No. For clarification, you said 200,000 over 2 years. Is that 200,000 per year?
Per year. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
over 2 years. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what about Commissioner Pete's thing? Do you want to include in that will allow the mayor to investigate if the IDB has the ability for that to come from that direction if it can.
Okay, then I'll put in at the end of that we can continue to investigate any other funding that may be available that would save the county
Well, you just
everyday funds.
You just picked up the second and the vote.
So was that a second? Got a second from Commissioner P. Any further questions, discussion? Call the roll.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Pete?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very
We'll
much.
see you next Thursday night. One more time.
Thank Mr. P for coming up with that idea too.
General fund budget amendment for Chancery Court. Bratcher, sorry you got so far down the list there.
Oh, it's okay, I was a little bit late. The reason for this request is that Judge Alexander in Smyrna has seen the need to allow judicial commissioners to issue ex parte orders of protection for folks who may need them after hours on weekends and holidays. And we have not provided that service in Rutherford County. Judge Alexander would not be, by statute, can't hear those cases. They're heard in either Chancery or Circuit Court. But judicial commissioners can issue those ex parte orders of protection when needed. But there was a technical glitch in that if they tried to issue them without having a computer in front of them that would access our case management system, then they wouldn't have a case number and might technically be ineffective. So Chancellor Wilson and I discussed this with Judge Alexander, and he and I discussed it and said, you know, I think it's a good idea for Smyrna to be going forward with this, but I also think that Rutherford County should be going forward with this. We talked with our general sessions judges who appoint the judicial commissioners, and their judicial commissioners are out at the jail in Rutherford County. So I didn't think we should go forward just with Smyrna, that this should be available throughout the county, and everyone I think agreed with that. So I contacted our vendor, local government data processing, and we are at the limit of our, I guess, our license for computers where we can access the system. And so right now we can have 16, and to add 2 more puts us, that's a cutoff. And the next increment that they provide is up to 32, I think, and that's what the extra money is for. We can place those at the remote site, train the people out there. That really, it's no extra cost for them or us, other than the time it takes for them perhaps to come to our office and we show them how to operate it, and it'll be limited for that single purpose. And so we can have a remote site in Smyrna as well as our jail, so that alleged victims of assault and so forth, all those causes or reasons that a person could get a protective order. But Nashville's been doing this for a long time. Of course, in all our discussions recently about their judicial building and so forth, they're going to be as big as Nashville is now in what, 20 or 25 years. But this is something I think that really is needed, that we've had not had the ability to do.
And the request is to move $1,700 from unassigned fund balance to processing services, and I take it in the future that money will be included in your budget.
That's correct, that's right. And the reason it wasn't this year, Judge Alexander brought it up to me on the Friday before Labor Day, and we've been discussing it since then. And I'll just be honest, I had not thought about it, and nobody else apparently had thought about it except Judge Alexander. And she, came in, ran notes, saw the need, and has been working towards getting it done.
How many requests do you typically get over a weekend like that?
Well, it might be only 3 or 4 or something like that. Up in Smyrna, it might be more. We haven't had the request because they weren't available. We've had people, of course, who the cause arises for them to come in on Monday morning and ask for them. But there could be a gap in the, if something happens on Friday night and you've got a holiday weekend, or even not a holiday weekend, you have to wait until Monday to get a protective order. There's a potential gap there.
Well, I'm sorry I had to step out for a moment, but are the judicial commissioners that are at the jail, are they available during the weekend?
I believe they are.
All the time in there.
Somebody's got to be there because they're
24/7.
They're bringing in people, and they have to set bond and all that sort
And
of
then
thing.
where in Smyrna would this occur?
I think at the Smyrna Police Department, and their City Hall and Police Department.
Which that would cover Laverne, anybody from
I
that end
think
of the
actually,
county?
I think that particular one, I think they just cover Smyrna. They'd have to, from
They'd have to come
Laverne, they'd
down
have
to
to come down
Sheriff's
here. That's
Department.
because of that, the way that Smyrna General Sessions Judgeship was set up. But at least everybody in the county would be able to come to the jail to get that.
So the money we're given would support the city of Smyrna's.
It would,
And
and the
counties.
county, and also, to say parenthetically,
Well, where I'm headed with that is,
Yeah.
have y'all asked the city of Smyrna, or do you?
I have asked, yes, and Judge Alexander has promised to ask for some reimbursement to us with regard to that. Now, I'll say parenthetically, number one, if we are able to implement electronic filing in Chancery Court, and we're very close to that. It's getting some permissions through the legislature is the problem at the moment, but we're very close to that happening. We're going to need additional ones. Now, e-filing, electronic filing is going to save everybody, us, lawyers, quite a bit of money. And then, I won't go into the details of that, but we would have to get additional licenses at that point anyway. And it's possible it could happen this year, which case I would have been coming back if it had gone that fast, in the spring or April, or I may have just put it in for next year. It just depends on how fast it goes. But down the line, when we get the new judicial building, that was going to be, whether we had e-filing or not, we were going to have them. It's going to be needed.
Well, speaking personally, I mean, I can see the need for this. If we can save one life, I mean, it's an effort worth doing. It just concerned me that if we're going to fund something for Smyrna, Smyrna's not going to allow anybody from outside the city limits of Smyrna to come in and use. The way I understand you, or am I?
Well, as I understand it, that's the limit of their jurisdiction. It's not something that Smyrna is created. It's simply the way all that legislation went to get that Smyrna judge created. I don't think they're intentionally doing that. I think if they were, permitted by some later legislation, that they would do that.
Okay.
And I have to tell you, I was not privy to how that General Sessions judgeship was established. But Judge Alexander, as I said, has promised to help us with that.
Okay.
And
I've got no more questions then. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Bond.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Commissioner Peak. Commissioner Schaefer, do you have a question? You've got a lot of looks going this way. All right. Let's call the roll.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Solid Waste Fund budget transfer. Ms. Nolan, I think you're handling this one.
I will. Okay, he's got several, well, 4 amendments here. The first one is $25,000 requesting to move from maintenance and repair to equipment. This is to repair and paint existing equipment instead of purchasing it. The second one is a $5,000 shift from advertising to site development. This is to increase the directional informational signage for proper recycling in all the centers. The third one is a move of $9,000 from other contracted services to site development. And this is the cost, estimated cost for disposal of recyclable commodities has increased. And then the last shift of $3,000 from communications to equipment and I'm saying these are backwards.
Backwards on that.
They're going to.
It's all backwards what I said. Because I hit that one. Equipment to communications of $3,000 is they're doing away with the AT&T and installing wireless communications. Sorry about that, guys.
So are all of them backwards?
They're all backward. I mean, when I say an increase is,
What you have on the screen is
Screen is correct.
yeah.
What
I
she said was
is wrong. It's backwards. We try
We're-
again.
We're increasing.
From solid waste
increasing repair
equipment.
and maintenance equipment, and instead of buying new equipment, we're repairing and
Right.
Same as increasing advertising,
Advertising.
Right.
increasing other contracted services, and increasing communication.
Yes.
Correct.
That's all within their budget.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Jernigan.
I'll second it.
Mr. Schaefer?
Quick question is, do we get anything for our glass recycling?
No.
No.
Just keep it from going to landfill then?
Yes, sir. That's all that's happening right now. It's a cost associated with disposing of it.
Any further questions? Call the roll.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. General fund budget amendment for county mayor.
Okay, well, all of you are well aware of the long discussion we had, an effort to solve and resolve the issue we had with this software that we had acquired from the circuit court clerk. Along with that dispute resolution, that goes, there are legal expenses that were incurred on behalf of that effort to get that resolved. So that amounts to $26,000, and we need approval to pay the attorneys that negotiated and worked and provided all of this assistance in this difficult project.
But these are local attorneys.
Yes, sir.
A motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Schaefer.
Second.
Mr. Baum?
This is the last we'll hear about it. Is that right? This is it?
Never say never.
That's right. I'll be sure to say that.
We hope that's the last one. Call the roll.
Commissioner Bond?
Yes?
Commissioner Jernigan?
Yes.
Commissioner Peak?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaefer?
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes. Annual report on fixed assets.
Okay, Mr. Robert Brown is the fixed asset coordinator, and he's presented his report for you. We usually typically try to finish this up after we are completed with our audit so that this agrees with what our audit has. I'm not going to read his letter for you, but typically what y'all look at is the very back on the results. That's on page 9 of 18. All the various schools that were reviewed during the 14-15 fiscal year and how well they did.
So I think we've, at least I've concluded in the past, that the variations sometimes or usually has to do with paperwork.
It
Not
does.
necessarily something walking off, but just not getting
The information doesn't
documented when
get
it
to
was
us.
when it was discarded or
Or
recycled
surplus.
or whatever.
And sometimes when they move a PC out, move to another place to get repaired, that paperwork doesn't always flow to us.
What
The
happened?
process is to, to keep it open for 2 years, because sometimes they will find the asset in another school when they review it. So if they can't find it for 2 years in a row, then they will retire the asset.
Mr. Schaefer, do you have a question?
Yeah, well, one's the clinics, and then as I was flicking back there for that, I saw 2 French horns are gone. How can you lose a French horn?
Well, that, again, it may be at another school.
That's true, okay.
We open
Okay,
new
what
schools,
happened?
some of those,
They-
those instruments all get shared. Remember that?
Yeah. How long was that happening?
Some of our instruments are not in very good shape. There is always the chance that they were surplus and it wasn't recorded properly.
Well, this one was November '91 is when it was created. Laverne Middle School wasn't around at that time, anywhere near then, so I could very easily see. Well, but the county clinics is what I saw, that they were only 87% or something like that.
There's very limited stuff in those clinics. I don't know, and we moved
not
from
a
one
lot.
from one provider to another provider, and it could have been that we just had that much in that transition.
Yeah, we only have 4.
Well, we used to have a lot more of them too, didn't we?
Well, I'm saying only 4 items that's inventoriable in a clinic.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a stapler messing it throws their whole number.
Make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Jernigan.
So,
Commissioner P. Now, we used to get this in print form. Does anybody get paper anymore? All the commissioners used to get a copy of this in their mailbox. And I always enjoyed looking at it, and I would like to
I know he
see.
sends it by way of email.
Well,
I get a copy.
it's out there by way of email. If you
Well,
want us
it's
to
over
print you
there.
out one.
I mean, I'm looking at it right here, but I know in the past, I've always at least kept it on my desk when I got a chance to read the whole thing. And I know I was killing extra trees and everything, but sometime old school work, it's my
We
opinion.
can
Ought
print
to be
that out.
yours.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second, I believe. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Discussion on long-term debt.
Okay.
There's nothing.
You have it on your desk. I'm gonna move down here if you don't mind.
It's gonna be up on the screen.
Well, not yet. We're gonna do a little bit of history first. I'll move to that, because I want you all ready to, because this is gonna be interactive. Okay, this first page gives you, because you do need to know what our outstanding principal balance is on our debt. We start the year, this top part is what's being paid out of the debt service fund. The bottom part is what's paid out of the general purpose school, and we have one capital outlay, it's a lease that is paid out of the general fund. But we're focusing on this top part, principal outstanding balance. Jeff, there's one right over there. Jeff, there's one. Right there.
I got one.
Okay. Outstanding GO debt is $359,770,000. We are scheduled to retire $28,430,000. That leaves us with $28,430,000. That leaves us with $331,340,000 at the end of 6/30/16 with our existing debt. Of that balance, $286,802,000 has to do with schools. The balance, $44,537,000, is what we owe on county projects. Page 2 summarizes all our principal and interest requirements on that debt. So for 2016, the debt service for our existing debt is $42,132,000. In our schedule, we're aggressive in how we pay off In 5 years, 39% of that debt will be paid. In 10 years, 70% of the debt. 15 years, 92%. 20 years, 100% of the debt, existing debt will be paid. Existing debt. But you can kind of go down through this debt service and see how it reduces. Where is your capacity? Kind of, our funding at that level. Where is your excess? All right, so that's the debt. Page 3 talks about how much money that we have put in of the property tax. And I've given you a lot of history here. In red is our budgeted numbers. It's not actual. What I thought was interesting is looking at this 1, 2, 3 on the third column is the actual amount of property tax off the current levy went into the debt service fund. You can see in the 9-10 fiscal year, we had 38 million of property tax going into the fund, where this year we've budgeted 35.6 million. And that's what I've said, that we have reduced the amount of money that we have set in our debt service. We've kind of moved it around to, to ensure stable property tax rates. That's primarily the reason. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth column is the amount of the tax levy that went into debt service. The next column is the value of the penny, what actually that we got in. And then what we, compared to what we budgeted. Now, what happens sometimes is, and what happened like last fiscal year, we budget 4.5% uncollectible. And they far exceeded, they didn't exceed that, they did better on their collections. I think they were at 97% collected at the end of the fiscal year, which kind of, it's like, well, we should have budgeted more, but you just, on our conservative budget, you just budget. And typically, we do get 95.5%. That's what our experience has been. The next to last column, the last column gives you the tax rate for each of the years and what percentage of the tax rate went for debt. Again, interesting, in the 8-9 year, almost 29% of our property tax rate went to debt, and right now it's at 21%. That's just a little history lesson.
I mean, Lisa, I want to sort of re-emphasize what she's trying to tell you here. If you can look at the total tax rate, or you can look at just the actual debt service tax rate, you can see we went up. In some years, we even increased the property tax that supported debt service without it being a reappraisal year. And basically, every reappraisal year, we've adopted a certified rate, which basically has not given us any room to breathe, you might say, with respect to future growth needs that we're going to have. So, as we have this discussion in the future, I think we need to really be serious about determining if we should adopt maybe not the fully certified rate, but at least a rate that gives us an opportunity for growth. And you're going to see, as she gives you some of these other projections, we're projected to grow at probably 4% on population, and you can just extrapolate that to schools. It's not that we need a 5-year plan. We're going to have at least one school a year, period. So once we get a tax rate that's sort of meeting our needs here, we don't need to back off from that, or we'll just be coming back again having to raise taxes. So I probably stole a little bit of her thunder. She's going to say later.
That's okay.
But I just want to re-emphasize how critical reviewing this and understanding this is.
And as we plan, think about as we're preparing budget information and in that year that we have a certified tax rate, that maybe that as we present it to you for that first time, maybe we just go ahead and say we need a 4% increase of the revenue to go in there, and this is what it would take. I mean, just kind of start the discussion with that.
What I hear what the mayor's saying, though, is that the reappraisal, by the book, you should come out even with what you had.
Just even.
Just even.
Yeah, but not what was gained during that reappraisal year. What was new construction that reappraisal year is in addition. It's not supposed to be factored in there at all.
Well, I mean,
just
it's
on-
in that rate. You're right, but it does have a piece of the calculation
It'll
in
make
there.
that rate, the actual value of the penny, it increases it some because you've got,
Well, what happens is
You're
you
gonna
take,
bring more
you
in
take
from
all
new
your
construction.
assessments out. You have all your assessments. Then you back out new construction, that new stuff. Then you get back to what the assessments are.
Yeah.
Then divide by how much money did this produce last year?
Mhm.
Because that's all you can get is that. Then that's your certified rate. So you're going to gain it just a little on that. Those
Well, a lot of
progressions.
it depends how accurate those figures that you just said.
Well, that's
are.
true.
And how,
That's right.
how good the record keepings are.
Yes.
If they don't get marked right in the computer or whatever,
Right.
it makes a difference.
That does make a difference. Okay, so that, did want to give you that history. So, on page 4, this is some of the projected revenue. And the mayor and I've had a lot of discussion. This is typically kind of, when I say typically, in the last few years, this is the growth I've showed on the value of the penny. I've had 2 and 3. Now, as I said, you look back in history, going back to page 3, how did it grow? Well, you know, we had years, 5, 6, big growth on reappraisal years, but just those last few years, we did not. Last year, we did have 4.4. So, you know, the question was, well, why can't we improve our estimate of this growth factor? And we can. This is part of the interactive piece of it, but this is just kind of a, what if this is all we had, is only a 2% growth on the value of the penny? Just so you get, so estimating for this year, $40,338,000 for all revenue. You see the various other revenues that's in there. I'm now on page 5. So this includes all of our existing debt, the revenue growing at 2 and 3%, showing that we are using 2.8 million. This is my first arrow. 2.8 million that we are underfunded this year, revenues being projected less than our appropriations. But assuming a 65% fund balance, we have a little scooching room of 2.7 million. So that's where our starting point's going to be, again with our existing debt. Page 6. I'm heading off the question. Lisa, I thought you said we could borrow money for this judicial center and we'd be fine. But when I said that, we hadn't borrowed the $34.3 million that we did for schools. The first borrowing that we borrowed towards the judicial center was in 2014. And we added $34.3 million in additional debt in May of this fiscal year. You can kind of see this is the debt schedule of that debt. So that's where it chewed up $2.5 million. That's when we first looked what we'd have available. Page 7, as we get through, when I just kind of go over this, we're going to, again, it's going to be interactive. These are the things that make changes to what happens in our debt. As you said, if there's an increase in assessment values better than what we projected, then that's just more revenue coming into the fund. We talked about earlier, the development taxes come in better. 1/2 went to capital, but the other half is going over there in debt. So, you know, those revenues are going to end up better, hopefully. Debt service on the expense side is easy to calculate. So if we continue on, our estimated ending fund balance is going to be better. So that makes a change. Changing the borrowing rate, whatever rate that we sustain when we borrow, whether it's up or down, you know, that's going to have an impact on our ultimate debt schedule. Another option is what happens if, you know, I'm projecting 65, it's like, okay, could you stomach 60? What if we only have a 60% fund balance that says 65? Can we live with that? Well, that just gives you a little bit more of your fund balance to use to offset additional money coming in property tax.
Would that affect their bond rating?
That's why I don't want to go too much for, you know, those are the things that you.
We start weakening that,
Yeah,
I'm worried that the raters would.
I agree.
Rating
I agree.
agencies will look at that.
That then has an effect on your rate that you borrow.
I don't think it would, 60% I don't think would have any real effect.
Okay.
They've never really computed and drilled down to what our percentage.
Well, yeah, they do. I mean, they do
Well, they
look
don't-
at it because
they
they
look
look
at it,
at our
but they don't-
financial statements.
If they take our policy and try to look at those 3 or 4 or 5 things that describe that, you can't really get to a number.
The
Well,
65% is just our policy, correct? It's nothing
It's
that's
kind of like we said, this is where
mandated by
we.
the state, or
Right.
what do other counties do we know?
Triple A, when we first started, before we changed our policy, it was at 75%. You've got some, Triple A, Williamson County or Franklin, have 100%. They've got 100% in their fund balance of their current year debt.
But it's only two or 3 counties that are even triple A. I don't know what Hamilton has.
Hamilton is still triple and Williamson's triple.
But we're AA plus?
We're double A.
Or just
Double A plus.
Double A plus.
What do like AA plus counties have on their
They're
requirement?
probably not any more besides us. I don't know.
Number
I don't know
four.
about Davidson. They may be up there.
They're not, oh, I don't know if they're
I
equal
don't
to
think
us.
they are.
What affects our assumptions is that change in the amount of pennies that go in there in the reappraisal. When you look at the schedule that I had before, it's assumed the same number of pennies is going to stay in there. So if there's a change in reappraisal, these schedules say we're going to put the same amount of pennies in. Then the other thing that happens is the amount that's needed to fund projects. Just give y'all that because those are the things that we're going to make some changes on. Now, page 8, you've seen schedules like this before. And on the top part, and this is kind of what the schools had kind of put out there of what their needs were. And they may have addressed some of this, but this is just at the point in time where the estimate is a new middle school to open in the fall of 2017, an elementary in the fall of 2018, and a high school in 2020. Then below that are the expectations or hope plan for the additions and when they would be open. So in the timing of the funds needing for a school, for generally the middle schools, we try to do those 2 years out, and elementary 1 year out. No, high schools are 2 years out, middle school's 1.5 years, elementary is 1 year. So if the school needs to be open in the fall of 2017, then we need to be talking about that now. That's how this schedule works. And I put in the full amount of the need to borrow for the judicial and parking garage at $67,000. So this to me, million. Yes, $67 million. I do.
Probably one of those charters like the.
I appreciate y'all catching that for me, that you know what I'm talking about. And not what I'm saying, but you know what I'm talking about. But it gets, just for those schools on top, and just putting in for the judicial and the parking garage, and I know that we've not talked about the vehicle repair garage of $750, and I always throw $1 million in for road projects just to have that out there. That considering the amount of money that we would also have to borrow for the schools, that we also have to share with the city, I'm coming up with a need of nearly $215 million in the next 4 years. This next page, 9, is kind of saying, okay, what if the schools just waited everything for a year? How would that look? that pushes it out. So it makes my schedules look a lot nicer. But I don't know how much that's reality. But I'm just telling you, these are the things that change what our needs are in debt service to fund the debt.
And there probably some stuff didn't make the list. I don't see anything on here for fire protection or for a solid waste facility. We had.
That 750 is on there.
Well, I mean, that's for the maintenance, but when we talked about the needs for the recycling center and that's a whole different, there might be some grant money, whatever. I mean, we've been talking about needing addition at the jail at some point in time, a different thing. There's all kind of stuff that could come up
That's right.
in the next 3 or 4 years.
And she's only out 4 years here, so we know it's going to at least a school in every year coming.
There's nothing in there about a jail.
Oh, that's what you
Yeah,
just
maybe
said.
the jail is,
So this is the schedule that we're gonna look at. So you know how, what feeds in here to the projected revenue, how that's built right now, 2%. And how does this look? So if I smooth out, I'm not gonna do the worst case scenario because that's just I'm going off of page 9 and saying, what if I smooth these 2 years and do this in 2 barns? So if I add, say, for this fiscal year that we're gonna borrow it in this year, but if we do it in the spring, then I don't have any principal and debt payments in this fiscal year. It rolls to the next. That's how I built this. Okay. So 56.5, we just add that 1, and what does it do? Just adding that one piece. We've got a problem here. You can see in red. But, again, I just want you to see how this all moves around. As I've told you before, what if the growth is not 2%? What if the growth is 4%? I'm just going to throw that. I'm just showing you how all this changes. I'll go back to that. I don't have as much of a problem, but I do have some.
And I've taken the position with Lisa that if this population is going to grow 4%, surely our property appraisal values will grow at the same rate. I mean, it should be something in that neighborhood. I mean, it may not be perfect, but I don't know why it wouldn't be.
So then, what if we drop to 60%? We have just a slight problem, not a problem. And the next year, I need to go fix something. Yeah, that's right, 60%. If you drop it 60%, then, then that gives you a little bit more flexibility. That's the question. You see, I guess my point is, all this kind of changes. So then, the mayor and I've already kind of gone through that, so, okay, now, that's just that first year. What are you gonna do this next year? We add that next year, got a problem? And let's say we add 46.2 million for that one. And this one, this is a killer year. That's the high school. And of course, this is looking way out, and the school board will be bringing this in. So just for these projects that's on this list, we've got some problems. Starting right there. So what's the other thing we could do? Looks to me like we either have to add additional pennies, or revenue's got to be coming in better somewhere. So this is going to be an equivalent. What if we had 5 cents? Starting next year. Make sure that formula's right. Yeah. What does that do? If we add 5 cents, grow at 4%, and drop the fund balance to 60%. Will it help? We push the problem down into this fiscal year. Okay, so what, our next thing was what if we added 8 cents?
But if
We
were
went
gon-
to 10.
If we were not going to borrow any more money, then we'd have 3 years that we would be a little bit out of tilt there, but then we would recover. But she's going to show you that it's going to be something every year thereafter.
If we borrowed money, we'd be in good shape.
Yeah,
We just tell people they can't move.
We can't move here.
just put up a fence.
That's right.
They were talking of a moratorium back in the 90s.
Outlaw crime.
Some of it's internal growth.
That's true.
Yeah, some of that is.
That's true. So then we went to, as the mayor said, I'm gonna expand this because it's probably, based on this information that's coming in, of how much we're gonna grow, we kind of brought this out. I gotta go figure out how to, right here, and hide it. Okay. I think we said, Mayor, 30. What if we did 30?
One elementary school inflated, 30 million into the future.
You know, so well, maybe if you didn't do elementary school 1 year, but you did high school 2, you know, that's just a number. But how did that look for the next 4 more years of borrowing? Well, as you said, it gets a little better. Now, still, you got to remember, we're saying we're not going to change the pennies in reappraisal years, regardless of what happens. With these assumptions, 56, whatever pennies we got in there right now. Can't remember what that is. 50 something. 56.83. That's the amount of pennies we got going in right now that we stay with 50. Well, right now I've added, what, 5 cents.
Well, if you don't take the certified rate, that's just a roundabout way of having a tax increase. You know, I mean, it's all, and the citizens are smart enough to know that. You can't
You're right.
necessarily hide behind that, so we're just gonna save the rate. If you don't take a certified rate, that's a tax increase. So it all works out the same.
But I do think that we got to look at this and say, we know that. And we also have this debt coming on.
Oh, yeah, we
You
got,
know, you can't-
and in order for my debt coming, and construction costs is gonna increase.
Yeah.
This number's gonna be low over the next 4 or 5 years, in my opinion, you know, projected numbers for cost and.
And it also costs money in terms of operating funds when you open these schools. You gotta staff them with teachers and
We're not even talking about that.
administrators and.
That number's growing. Besides the inflation, cost of living all on the ones you've got, you're adding percentages. It's snowballing. It's getting worse all the time.
But again, it gets it back to the reappraisal year though. How accurate is that rate? What was it? The last one we had, state, after we got one, came back and said, hey, there's somewhere along the line that was wrong by a penny and a half or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So,
So the next thing we did, we said 10 cents in putting this out there. What happens if we raise it 10 cents next fiscal year? What does that do to this? You know, with the debt that we have, plus assuming that's coming in. Well, you know what? That's not a problem.
that's 10 cents, but
That's 10
nothing else
cents.
anywhere else, right?
That's right, that's right. So then we said, what about 8 cents? What happened? I mean, this is kind of what we did. So it's either additional money's coming in here somewhere. It's gonna be equivalent money. The other thing that my schedule does not contemplate is that interest earnings. Whenever we borrow money and set projects up, any interest earned on that goes into debt service. So I've kind of got a low ball number here. It'll be a little better.
I guess you're also assuming reasonably low rates when we borrow, and as we move out into the future, those rates can go up.
That could go up too. And I
Well-
can show you what happens to that.
Well, you also, some of that would be offset by revenues that we'd be getting on money that our trustee would be.
That's what I'm
investing.
talking about. That's that interest earnings. That's what I'm talking about.
Right now,
that
it's
he's borrowing.
next to nothing, but it.
Right,
I mean,
well,
that's-
we've taken a
Projection,
huge
no.
lick on that in the last several
So
years.
when we have to pay higher rates of interest, then we might get more earnings, but it would still be a deficit.
Be a loss.
Be a loss proposition.
Projections don't show interest rates
All this
climbing over the
economy.
next 2 or 3 years significantly from what little I've read. I mean, maybe a 0.5% or something, but I don't think we're gonna see 6% or something in the next 2 years.
I haven't played around with these spreadsheets. It looks like with an 8 pennies going into this fund, it would take care of a lot of the problems. Of course, we've changed a lot of the different variables, so it's hard to see that precisely. The county raised property taxes 10 cents last year, and then a lot of our ending fund balances came in better than we thought.
No, we raised it more than 10 cents last year.
20 cents.
Or it was
20
a-
cents.
It was a 10%. It was a
19.33.
10%. It was a 10%
maybe, yeah.
tax increase, and then a lot of our ending fund balances came in a lot better than we thought. But then, of course, we were trying to budget conservatively. I haven't played around with these spreadsheets, but I'm wondering if some of the tax increase that was passed in our last budget could actually be diverted into this account, just
Okay.
because some of that increase didn't end up.
Okay, so here's the thing. Our current budget in the general fund, we're using 6 million of that fund balance. And a lot of that's operating, so we've got to address that 6 million again this year.
See, the 20 cents, 20 pennies all went toward the school's
Schools.
operation. Every bit, every one of them.
So, yeah.
We took a
I mean,
penny out of the general fund and put it in that.
Yeah.
And we did that too.
Well, it may be that there's not a lot of wiggle room there, but my impression was that we raised property taxes by a certain amount, and then some of the ending fund balances came in a little bit better than we thought, which almost could have suggested that we had a little bit more than we thought we were going to have, and it could be that unexpected extra amount could be moved into an account like this. I don't know to what extent that's possible, because we're looking at these numbers on spreadsheets pretty quickly, and I don't have all that information, but it could be that a portion of the most recent tax increase could in fact be allocated into this account, and you wouldn't need a brand new tax increase in order to get more pennies into this account.
If you could move some pennies from somewhere into debt service, you might not need 8 or 10 cents. But if you can't move any pennies, you're gonna need at least 8 pennies.
And that's kind of what,
In the next, who knows when it's gonna stop? It's gonna take that many.
You're talking yearly, or are you talking?
No,
Well,
at least one
one
time, and
time.
don't move, don't deviate from a number, like don't take
It's
a
not-
penny
you're
out of
not
that, move
adding
it somewhere
8
else along the way.
It's just
We
one
could
time.
probably have
One
a
time.
similar
What does that affect?
conversation about nearly all our budgets. Projected growth in the general fund, projected growth in the operating for the school system, projected growth in sheriff's department, all over the next 4 to 5 to 10 years, and how much more money they're gonna need over that amount of time. I mean, I'm not trying to, be argumentative here, but we could have this same conversation about, I would think, any of our budgets.
any of
Yeah.
them. But I just wanted to get y'all to and again, this is only talking about the brick and mortar. It's not talking about operating.
I remember about 10 years ago, our bond consultants came up with a way for us to save money, and that was to go from a 20-year bond to a 25-year
5-year,
bond.
yeah.
Now, I remember there were some of
We
us
didn't
that
like
were
that.
pretty much against that, because they were just spending millions upon millions of extra dollars on interest. And sometimes you just gotta suck it up and pay your bills, instead of trying to start finagling a little bit. You can do it a little bit to some extent, but you just gotta pay your bills when it comes right down to it.
So just let the schools, try to estimate what they're coming, what their needs are. I just kind of want to show you how that's going to look in this when you start hearing it. And that when we get to budgeting for next fiscal year, when we get to start borrowing for these projects, I just want you to know all the different pieces that affect this puzzle.
You're supposed to
That's
at
what I
least
used to
let us
do one
get through
year.
Christmas before you start hitting us up with a tax increase.
Well, let's talk about the timing of this. Lisa, can we just go back and just put the judicial building up there
Okay.
at 65%
Let me jump.
with a 4% growth rate?
Okay. What did I do? I backed up some stuff. All right, just the judicial building. See, the thing is, we wouldn't borrow all of it. all at once. That you would, I would think that it's a long
But it's gonna be a-
project. But let's just put it all on 67.
Put it all at once.
There we go.
It's really 68 million, but it,
68.
Change your percentage over there.
I put it back to 60.
65. Oh, did you?
Would you, it's at 60. And growth rate at 4, and no pennies.
and no pennies.
Yeah. So what does that look like? All of that in 1 year. Looks like, you know, we're gonna need a couple pennies that year.
Then there you're
And
going,
then
there,
about 8
$5 million,
cents
you're
there.
gonna need about 7 or 8 pennies.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, they're on the side, she's got them on that next column.
Yeah. So,
And that's at a 60% fund balance.
and a 60% for balance.
Change it up to 65, it's every March.
I did put, oh yeah, if I put it to 65, it's worth. Barring half and half, pushing out 1 year, you know, it helps you.
Got him.
And the other thing, you know, I'm saying we're going to the market, we're going to do it in March, and we're, you know, do it all, but reality, we probably gain a year by, you know, borrowing internally, like we usually do, just on the offset, you know, just getting it started and then borrowing. That gains us a year out.
One thing I'd like to see is an analysis of the 20 penny tax increase that we passed. What portion of those pennies, as it turns out, once we closed the books and knew what our final balances were, how many, which ones of those pennies and in which accounts were absolutely needed versus which ones added revenue above these minimum requirements that we
Yeah,
needed.
but some of it's just wasn't the property tax that we gained revenue on. You know, for schools at BP, I mean, it's other different revenues.
Well, I mean, I'm saying we raised the property tax rate by about 10%. I'm interested in tracking where that money went and how much of it was absolutely needed in order to get the school's account balance up to the 3% and of course to get debt service up to 65%. I think once we finished the year with some of these accounts, we closed a little bit better than we anticipated, and we ended up with those better ending fund balances and with the tax increase in a little bit better shape than we thought we were going to be in. I'm interested in seeing what that amount is, because here we're suggesting we need maybe 8 pennies put into this debt service account in order to service the debt on this judicial building. I'm wondering how many of those pennies could potentially come from other accounts, and maybe the answer is none of them, but I have a feeling that some of them, I mean, we mentioned a 20-cent tax increase, we need 8 cents here. I have a feeling some of those 20 pennies could potentially be moved into this account, knowing now how we closed the fiscal year.
Well, we also know that a fair amount of that went into more computers, a couple of million, which would have been some pennies there that hopefully we're not going to have to buy that many again next year.
Well, in the general fund, the balance that we got is funding our 6 million that were upside down. And the way I look at it is that, I know that's on a budgetary basis, but I can't recall anything that is a one-time thing that's in this fiscal year that we're not gonna have next fiscal year, so.
I guess what he's saying, Lisa, if we, on the general fund, just assume we spend all that we got appropriated, and that uses up $6 million of our fund balance. After that fund balance uses up $6 million, how much is left in the fund balance, and how much does that exceed 15%, if any?
Yeah, 20%.
That's sort of
We
what I
didn't
think
pay
is.
the pennies in the general fund, I thought we
We
took
didn't
from
move
the
any,
general
but he's
fund.
saying we
Yeah.
could have used some of the pennies, since we've wound up with a fund balance better than 15%, we could have, had we known that, could have offset the need to spend the whole 20 minutes and push it over to the.
Or what I'm hearing, and I may be wrong, is when we set next year's tax rate, maybe 3 cents could come from the school system if they got a little more than they had to have and go back over toward debt service. Or something like
Right,
that.
I mean, we
That's
raised
true.
the property tax
Yeah.
rate by 20 cents.
we could've
And
got by
how much would we have, what's the minimum amount that we would have absolutely had to have raised the tax rate in order to meet these fund minimum requirements? And the accounts finished up the year a little bit better than we anticipated, and so we probably wouldn't have needed the full 20 cents. So
Of course, that's current fiscal year. We're about to start on next fiscal year, and everything probably gonna be higher, and so
I
that'll
mean,
be.
that's kind of how,
And that,
you know,
that'll be,
I totally get where you're coming from.
I mean,
Looking at-
you're suggesting we need 8 pennies in this account.
Or some.
And we raised the property tax rate 20 cents, and I'm wondering, are there any of those 20 pennies that we could transfer into this debt service account? And maybe the answer is no, we can't transfer any of them, but I'm wondering, out of the 20 pennies, how many of them could be transferred in here? Maybe the answer isn't 0, maybe it's 3 or 4 pennies, or what if it's 8 pennies? Then it may not be that amount, maybe.
But the only two places you're really gonna have any opportunity is the school board budget, operating budget, or the general fund budget. That's where all the money is.
Yeah. It'd just be interesting to see if any of these kinds of transfers would be possible.
of course, if you do a tax increase to the absolute bare minimum, you're probably gonna be doing a tax increase every year. It may be very, very minimal, but as things get higher and all, and you they need 3 cents, you give them exactly 3 cents, and they spend every penny of that, and you're gonna need another penny or two next year, I would think, you know.
And that's what I'm saying, is that I look at how we've adopted this budget. Now, we typically don't spend everything, and hopefully the revenues do come better. That's why I look at the revenue sheets. That's what's telling me, and how are we tracking compared to the other years? Are we gonna have opportunity to increase our revenue estimates at the end of the year, close this gap? Because on a budgetary basis, we go into the next year with the same all positions and budgeting those positions at full time. We've still got those kind of budgeting the expenses. And are the revenues gonna grow? We still, from my perspective, and especially getting ready to borrow money, and I will just, the last time we talked with our rating agencies, they made a comment. I mean, I feel good that we've closed at above 15% in the general fund, knowing that we're gonna be borrowing money at some point this fiscal year. That may be May again, but to be able to say we closed higher, because they said, 15% really is bottom of the barrel for your rating. So.
Is there a recommendation for any action tonight,
No.
or just all for information?
It's all information. It's just things I just wanted to give you, that as things are progressing, what, will probably be coming in soon.
But do we need to consider changing this policy before we actually go to bond market, because it could affect what we
No,
do?
I don't, because the policy is written.
It's flexible
It's
enough.
flexible enough, and part of that policy is doing a 5-year capital improvement plan, and a component of it is, how is your debt service how is your fund balance gonna be able to take on additional debt? That's the way I look at it.
I sort of want to outline the timing of this judicial building process. Possibly by late November this month, we'll have a hard number. And if we get it, it may be an early part of December, so it may not happen at that property management meeting at the end of this month. We'll take that number to property management, and let's suppose it's 68 million or less, which is what the budget is right now. And property management will be likely to approve the number. They won't be approving the budgeting part of it, but they'll say this is what we budgeted the whole time, and this is a reasonable point to proceed. That's going to come to budget then after that meeting. The earliest it could come to budget would be December. The latest, I shouldn't say the latest, but we would like to have a decision on whether we're going to build this building, assuming it comes in within budget, no later than the January commission meeting, because we're going to need a definite commitment on the part of the county to issue the debt to start this construction. They want to start construction in the early first quarter of next year. So that's just sort of the outline of where we're going. I mean, it's fast approaching that we'll have to decide.
Is it a 2-year construction window?
It'll be, yes, they'll start first quarter next year, and it'll be, I think, about April of 2018 before it's completed.
They'll
Right.
be providing us draw schedules to kind of let us know when the timing of money is going to be needed for this, so that we can dovetail that into this plan along with the school board plan. But anyway, that was it. You want this schedule so you play with it?
Sure. Well, he also needs, or Lisa needs the ending fund balances that he might want to
He's
work.
got it. I mean,
Oh, he's got those?
that is what the estimated ending fund balance is. It could be better because of the debt service coming in. Okay.
Does that conclude this portion of the
Yes, sir.
discussion?
Yes, sir.
Tell you what, I'll get
Alright.
Oh, you don't-
Any other business to come before the committee tonight? Ham breakfast, pancake breakfast?
Went from the 21st out of Kittrell. A little ways out.
We get the main announcements at the full commission, but we got an opportunity here. There's nothing else to come before us tonight. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Mr. Mayor?
What do you do?